It's the Daly-Joe show. We're back. All right, cheers.
A little while.
Cheers. Did you put something in?
Cheers. Oh man,
Let's get me going.
an
this
extra
morning.
shot in there. It's it is Thursday after all.
All right. So
Ribbit.
I am Joe Bliss,
And I'm Steve Daly.
and we are the Daly-Joe show.
Thanks for tuning in.
All right, we're going to pick up from our last discussion. We started talking a little bit about parks. We're going to come back to that and maybe a little bit more. We're going to expand out to some of the other parks. But first, I think we ought to talk a little bit about our favorite segment, WIllimantic Today.
Bam, bam, bam.
Something.
What do we read on there?
Something really caught my eye recently because there has been construction going on at Gilson Square for a long time, and I can't tell you how many posts I've seen saying, "What's going on at Gilson?
Who's
What's
digging?
going on at Gilson?"
What are they burying there? A
And,
couple of bodies.
It's starting to form. Do you know what's going on at Gilson?
I've heard some things. That are going on there.
I've heard it's a Dairy Queen.
Oh,
It's
Dairy
Jimmy Hoffa getting buried.
I've actually heard it's going to be a new place to poop.
Yes.
That's what I've heard.
Good. Put it somewhere.
Thank goodness.
You know, when you get, like those big festivals, it's got to be expensive. How many porta potties they rent? 20 or so?
Yeah, it's a lot. I'm sure they're still going to need some. I mean,
Yes,
because
for the
how many
big ones?
permanent potties are they going to put? That's
probably
something
have
I don't know. Do you know the numbers?
I think there's at least 6.
Okay.
I don't know. I should say
Unisex?
I don't
We
know.
don't know.
Even though I looked at some of the plans as part of planning and zoning, I forgot now exactly how many. Could have been twice that many. But it's a permanent structure.
Wow, twice that many.
A permanent structure will certainly help offset. It's mostly funded with ARPA money, which is the money we got for COVID relief.
Oh, okay.
There's a little bit of expense incurred to the town, but that will bring down the cost of running those bigger events and should make it easier to draw other bigger events.
That's great. And Gilson Square itself is a open to the public, multi-use park, and so having a place to relieve yourself, I think, is really helpful. Some people did post some comments about can they not just go to the senior center and the community center to use the bathroom. I thought that was a pretty good point, but also I am in favor of more bathrooms. I really like being able, especially with kids, being able to run to where we need to so that they can do that and then get back to playing.
I saw that comment too, but if you've been to the community center, that would be a disastrous idea. Imagine you have 10,000 people at Gilson for that have been drinking or whatever.
Oh,
and
okay.
And they're coming over and and now what? I mean, you have other activities, you got kids events, and now you have all these people coming in. They don't have IDs. They make.
So are these bathrooms? The idea is not just every day. So that's interesting to me because I guess I figured it would help the overall accessibility of the park and maybe encourage more people to go when there aren't events happening.
Well, that's a good question because we saw a bunch of comments.
But are you saying they might be closed during that time and they're really for the events?
That I don't.
Because that's interesting.
I don't know that they're going to be open. And when you look at those comments on Willamette today, a lot of people are already assuming that they're not going to be open except for the events. And that just brought up a bunch of other grousing about Rec Park and other parks where we have facilities that you can never use. Even while people are playing baseball or softball or whatever else they're doing.
Right.
So we have these facilities, but
they're never
it's head
open.
scratcher as to when they're actually used.
Well, okay. Yeah, that I've always been disappointed when I get to Lauder and those are closed. I'm like, okay.
Oh yeah, like when you
and
go
then
to that little beach.
There's one porta potty over by the skate park, which it used to be over this. So I coach a soccer team over there, and we're there two days a week. And it would be really nice to have that porta potty back on the soccer field side, or even between, the skate park and the soccer field. Anyway, it's really far away for the kids to go all the way across to those bathrooms there.
So when you're down in that little beach,
That's my personal gripe. Put a porta potty by the soccer fields.
And so what happens instead? People are gonna pee.
They're gonna pee. Well, they pee in the woods.
course they would.
Jeez.
Well, you gotta go.
Yeah, which you know, there's a little cut through from the fence to the river from the soccer field there, so
you can pee in the river.
there's a good pee spot there, just so you know.
So if you're down at that little beach and the bathrooms are closed, you're probably peeing over by the bathroom, but on the outside.
But yeah, probably on the outside wall of the toilet. Of
Is
the
that what this
bathroom
show is now?
structure.
The title of this show is "Where to Go Pee When the Bathrooms Are Locked in Our Parks."
That's right.
I think this is something that everyone.
There were
wants to
some
know
other
about.
good spots actually along Lauder Park
won't talk
River,
about
but
where to poop.
they cut down the trees there, so now it's less pee accessible.
If you gotta poop, you gotta leave the park.
That's true. That's true.
Although
No pooping in the
if you
river.
got kids, sometimes you can't wait.
It's fucking true. I'm sorry. It's true.
It's true. Like this,
we take them anywhere.
We're gonna stick our head into the sand about this, but taxpayer pays for all this. People are trying to use the parks. We want them to use the park. You have this facility, and then you can't. What the hell is that? You can't
poop in it.
Yeah.
God damn it. Yeah. So I guess I agree with all those points. Please, with this new facility going in, have a plan for accessibility. Certainly, so the big issue, right? And we all know, I think, why they would keep them closed, right? It's going to cost a lot of money to maintain, keep clean,
Who's
and
watching it? How much vandalism?
make sure there's no vandalism.
People will just tear that place up.
Right. So, what is the answer to that?
I have no
Cameras in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Please edit that out. No, so what would be the answer to that? I was just in New York City. I keep talking about that. There's, public bathroom attendants that are there just to help out, but they're also just encouraging
it's an expense.
Proper use. Now, our parks don't get the type of constant use that New York City parks do at this point, so it would not really make sense to hire someone to stand there and be so supportive when you're using the bathroom. But I'm just brainstorming. That's all we can do. Please leave a comment with your brainstorm. How could we have these bathrooms open and used properly and cleaned and maintained? And of course, we can hire people to go in and check on them. I think it goes back to something we were talking about last episode that I just mentioned now is more use. The more people that actually are there using it, the less attractive it is to people that would want to vandalize it or misuse it.
That's a really good point. So, if you think about Jillson Square when there's no event, it's desolate. So who's gonna wander over there? Some kids, that are bored. You might have some vagrants, people that don't have a convenient place to go.
Could be a shelter.
Could be, people might sleep in there.
Right. Which, really unfortunate situation that they're in, but we need that space for the rest of the town to use in other ways.
So there has to be, a budget, and there has to be personnel involved there's a cost associated with leaving every hour that's open. I don't know what that is.
Right.
Is it worth it if it costs what would it cost to have somebody, monitor it on a, regular basis, like every hour? Do you have to have police swing by and check it? Do you have to have, Public Works come by and check it?
I think it's probably Public Works. If you're asking police to do that, that's an extra load on their plate.
So if somebody's checking, 6 times a day, that's 3 hours.
But you just have a bathroom checker go to all the bathrooms. Then you keep Lauder open, you keep Rec open. So it's almost like the more that you have, the more you could justify a full-time person to do this. And then that's what they do.
Bathroom checkers.
Right. And it's not a waste of time or money because you have enough work for them, right? There is a lot going on. But of course we have to justify the use then.
That's right.
On the other side. So we have to get out there and poop in those toilets, baby. Get out there. Do your part. keep these bathrooms open.
I think so much of this comes back to this is part of a bigger question around maintenance of parks. So, you see routinely in Willimantic today, people complaining about the state of parks. Got garbage overflowing or fences that are broken down. Add to that bathrooms. So the bathrooms are, I wouldn't surprise me if the bathrooms are shut at Rec Park partly because, or maybe completely because it's too expensive to keep them open.
Right.
So we built it with good intentions and then kept it open
Rec
and then
parks,
couldn't keep up with the repairs.
Those bathrooms are interesting because they're way in the back of the park. I mean, you've got to go.
You better plan on it.
Yeah. But at the same time, I mean, I've been back there with my kids to that playground, which is right next to it. And, in the parking lot right next to it, there are some people doing things that the police probably should know about. And so I think, I don't know, it's not because of the building. I'm just pointing out, like, that space in Rec Park is pretty far off the beaten path. And so anytime you have something like that, yes, you go there for peace and solitude, but
good place
so
to
do other people.
Deal and do drugs and that sort of thing. Because it's not, again, this goes back to Jane Jacobs, eyes on the street kind of thing. It's like if it's tucked, if these park pockets where there aren't enough people in that space and end up drawing an unsavory element.
That's such an I think this is something to think about more and more because we do have a lot of good parks in town. We really have to think about, like, we talked, I think, last episode briefly, like the 3 things that make a really good park are, being all purpose, having them busy, but then a big component of both, like to make both of those viable, is the accessibility. And I don't mean accessibility for people with disabilities, that's important too, but I mean literally, can the community easily walk there, pass by there? Can it be a part of their daily lives? Do you have to go out of your way to get there? Because the second you do that, like, let's build this big, beautiful park way on the other side of town. If everyone has to drive there, it's like, we're not going, right? Only people with extra time and money then can use that, and that's a commodity these days. So having it in your, I think, my idyllic dream is having a park right over here on the corner where
neighborhood parks.
Yeah, a neighborhood park where I can send the kids. I know the other kids that are going to be there. And maybe I don't. Maybe I can meet some. That's fine. I'm happy to meet all kinds of new people. But the point is, I guess more of the point is they don't have to cross a busy street. Is really what it is. And so how many of those parks do we have in town? I would argue Lauder's tough. There is that awesome neighborhood right next to Lauder where you can walk right to it. But it's tough because you got to cross 195.
But clearly that park is bigger than just that neighborhood needs. That's not a neighborhood park.
That's a good point. It's not a neighborhood park.
Right.
That's a really good point. Okay.
Rec Park's not a neighborhood park.
No. There are some good neighborhoods that can access that, which is awesome. But yeah, it's got certainly a lot of amenities, even if they're not open. The dog park down there as well has that great walking trail down by the water, by the old ruins of the mill there. So I'm talking about I guess more neighborhood parks, or any park though, to get the kind of traffic we're talking about, kind of needs to be more accessible than so far our examples are falling short. Lauder and Rec. I think those are great because they do highlight the river, which the more I think we do that in our town is always in our best interest. And that brings us to like Heritage Park, which we talked about last time, and the Whitewater Park as well. And then, of course, the Green Trail or the Airline Trail there.
I wonder what the usage of Rec Park is, even sort of by hour.
Well, there were some posts on Willimantic today before about that park being closed. Remember, it was locked off?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what that was. The gate. That's a whole other question is, closing parks because it's that just pretty much closes it off to anybody who is law abiding.
The whole gun argument. Nice. That's true. Before we get too far off of the accessibility, I want to brainstorm with you.
I mean, that's a part of the accessibility. That was a
yeah, it is.
That was an anomaly.
I guess I'm going down this. Maybe it's a rabbit hole, but this path of what parks are this neighborhood park that I'm describing as an ideal outdoor living room.
Memorial Park should be that.
Memorial's accessible to a lot of people by foot.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of parking there, so the more you can walk there, the better.
But I've never seen the street really full of parked cars either.
I will say one thing about Memorial is once you get inside the fenced area, that's good. But the big open area doesn't seem to be used as much as I think it could.
That's definitely underused.
It's so weird to me because it's a beautiful big space. Something that I read about in this article that you sent me was also about having kind of a divide from a busy road and the park. And Memorial Park, that big green space is the divide. And so I think it doesn't get used as an all-purpose use space because that's the divide. Whereas if there was like a hedgerow, not blocking, lots of spaces. I'm not saying to block, but just a visual barrier,
a psychological barrier that makes it feel like a contained space.
Exactly. I think you'd find more use on that, and it could be a better. So that's a good point. Memorial Park, I love for that. Its location there.
It could
use that divide, but that's a neighborhood park.
It should. I mean, looking at it, location, it should have significantly more use.
It's tough to get from Main Street to it, just because honestly, it's the Dunkin' Donuts parking lot, and then the gas station that's there.
Well, I think that's
a tough place to park.
The accessibility problem,
or a tough place to cross.
Because once you cross Bridge Street, it's car world.
Yeah,
and it's just not a nice place to walk anymore.
Right.
So, but if you're coming from that side of
Main Street, a lot of this with my kids when we go there. Yeah.
So I think there's something to that. Like this Main Street in front of that is not particularly inviting. But I'm not exactly sure what all the reasons are why it's not used more. If it was used more, and more of a prized gem of the city, it probably would raise the property values of all the properties around it.
Oh, sure.
But because it isn't, it doesn't. And
right.
Again, this gets to this challenge of, sort of minimum amount of activity in order for the park to really thrive. And I don't know that we've achieved that with any of the parks. And that, as a result, there's less attention on them all.
Would there be an argument that we have too many parks? And we need to the school consolidation. We need a park consolidation.
This is what I've said before: is if we are not able to maintain the parks, what does that say about whether or not we should have the park?
It does go to that. I hate hearing it.
I agree because
I don't want to do that.
Parks are a little bit like rec department programs.
Mm-hmm.
You could easily double or triple the budget, and people would use it. Okay, but somebody else has got to pay for it. And here we have these parks, and they obviously need more attention than they're given. I believe the Public Works is, they're making probably the right choices on priorities of what to take care of. But there just isn't the budget or the focus. Do
you think as a society we also don't have that demand?
I think that's I think that's a good question. Do we have the same demand for parks that we used to? We probably have more of a need for it.
Sure.
We're drawn inward by our technology and away from the parks. And as a result, we've lost our love affair with parks.
It's a heavy episode.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
I don't know who actually thinks about parks other than maybe the director of public works.
Well, and the people that use them, and I guess the less that they're maintained, you're going to have less and less people that use them.
I mean, sort of in a coordinated design fashion. You know, like what's the parks strategy? What's the number one park?
That's a pretty good
What's
point.
the number one park to develop?
Yeah.
You know, how many parks do we have? What's the usage on an hourly basis?
Well,
These.
So all that is really important, and I guess, I have this in my head about the neighborhood park that we were talking about, this idyllic fantasy that does not exist. But I just wanted to finish the list of WIllimantic for other parks that we have that might fall into that.
Okay.
Then
we got to wrap it up.
Like Young's Park over there, across the river, and then Guile Field is another one over there. American Legion Park you have there. So I mean, those are all pretty good, and those are accessible for the neighborhoods that are there without going too far out of your way. And they're walkable.
Don't have one in South Wyndham. We get outside of Willimantic.
South Wyndham, you don't have any yet.
None. North Wyndham, we're talking about. I don't know.
WIO Field.
Yeah, I guess I'm not this familiar. Wyndham Center, talking about Nosnick, developing Nosnick as a park.
Oh yeah, right.
So that could be. But here again, we have another park.
Who's going to maintain?
And you know what's the not the 5-year plan, but like the 20-30-year plan.
I guess it goes back to these committees you're talking about. Well, to have the plan, to have that mission, I mean, it's almost like an advertising thing. It's almost like, all right, if you need people to see it, you've got to be where they're seen, and they're spending their time on social media, right? And digital.
Where's the communication? How are we educating people to even remember that there's a park that they can go to?
And is there an advertising budget for something like that? No, because why would there be? We're doing this for the people. Why should we advertise for them to come use it? It's such an interesting thing, and I think it comes. Oh my God! Then you get into propaganda in a way, right? Because you're like, well, now you're spending money to not tell people what to do, but highlight.
You're spending taxpayers' money to push that.
Push almost an ideology of being healthy and being outside. Right. I don't think so, man. This is America.
Well, anything we learned from COVID is we should have good parks, and that's why we put most of the ARPA COVID money into parks. Hopefully we won't be stupid this time and keep people inside when
right.
we need to be outside.
Yeah.
The parks are neglected. We have good bones in the town. We probably could use more neighborhood pocket parks.
That's what I would love to see. Well, obviously, right? I keep hinting at that. Thank you for saying that. That's what I'd like to see. More small parks, not a whole huge project, but just that Poets Park.
Yeah,
that's a good little neighborhood park.
Right. That one probably serves well. For its purpose.
Right, just something small, a little patch of grass. The town owns it, maintains it.
My sense
is that it can be a communal gathering place.
As this town grows and thrives, so will the parks. I think the parks may be a barometer of the well-being of the town. And right now, the parks need some TLC. We need coordination. Focus, master planning.
There's only one way for that to happen. Observe the problem, connect with members of the community, and take that next smallest step.
I think we should leave it at that.
Take that next step. Leave a comment with your idea, and we'll take it from there.
Fill your cup with cheer and get out there.
And coffee.
Enjoy the parks.
Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for joining us.